Halo, the original killer app of Microsoft's ambitious first steps into the gaming hardware market, captured the imaginations of gamers and critics alike. It quickly gained momentum into a massive story arc and an even larger universe that would become one of the hallmarks of modern gaming. And yet, in its infancy, Halo began as a far cry from its final inception of a console-based first-person shooter. Originally intended to be a real-time strategy game for the Macintosh, the Halo series took a dramatic change of course after developing studio Bungie was purchased by Microsoft in 1999.
Bungie started making shooters back in the day. We made the Marathon series for Mac and then one of the games on the PC. And then we took a sort of right turn into real-time strategy games with Myth. And when we started working on Halo, we were in this in-between world where we had experience with shooters, we had experience with RTS games, and we started out as an RTS game for Halo. You know, we really wanted to blow open the Myth sandbox a little bit, do some different things technically, gameplay-wise. But as we began to create this world filled with little tiny space marines and little tiny vehicles, we really felt this strong urge to get down at the battlefield level and really play amongst those guys, play as maybe even one of those guys. And we slowly over time began to stick a third-person camera on one of the Marines, stick a third-person camera on one of the vehicles, and over time that evolved into, oh my god, I want to be right in there in that guy's helmet.
The success of the Halo franchise has rested largely upon two stout pillars: a compelling single-player experience that weaves a story through a mythology as rich as anything you find in the classic stories of old, and competitive multiplayer that's strategic enough to sink your teeth into, but fast and furious enough to get your blood boiling. The former pits the player as a ubiquitous cyborg super soldier named John 117, but more commonly referred to as the Master Chief. The story tells the tale of humanity's fight against an alien alliance known as the Covenant, and is spanned across 6 games, several novels, a collection of animation shorts, and a graphic novel.
The mythology of Halo really started with the world itself that we were constructing. I don't know if we've ever said this, but the initial Halo world was a planet. It was this place that you could really walk around the surface of this world. And on that world we began to add characters. You know, there were certainly Marines and the guys that they were fighting, vehicles, these sort of vistas that we could see. But really the characters started off as very sort of archetypal building block characters, and for a long time we just had this guy that was a soldier. As a matter of fact, at one time he was called Husk, like corn husk, just this empty sort of vessel. And we kept him that way for such a long time. We reached a point in Halo development where we said, oh my gosh, we have to give this guy a name. We have to give your character a name. So the choice to call him Master Chief, to invent this voice inside his head, Cortana, those were actually pretty late decisions in Halo's long development process. In Halo 2, we had the idea of the Master Chief and the Arbiter, and I think though we fell a little bit short of telling a full, complete story, we were really happy with exploring 2 different perspectives on this universe, 2 opposite sides of this conflict. And so when it came to ODST, there was still a strong desire internally in the studio to take this really rich universe and tell as many stories as possible, in a single game. And for us that meant different characters, perspectives, different points of view. So ODST was all about putting you in the boots of this squad of individuals, giving you their own short little stories of what happened in this city. For us, ODST was this wonderful opportunity that was totally unexpected.
If the story of Halo is what gets fans misty-eyed with nostalgia, it's the multiplayer that gets them cursing in their screens, gloating with a champion's satisfaction, or frothing for one final rematch, even into the small hours of the night. Halo Combat Evolved was one of the last few games to bring gamers together for a LAN party, as the Xbox Live service hadn't been launched yet. But subsequent titles penned the blueprint for the online multiplayer shooter experience, and success of Microsoft's premium online service owes much to the Halo series.
Well, the first thing we knew was that we had a giant multiplayer hit on our hands. And we knew that we wanted to expand that multiplayer out of split screen, beyond System Link, to this new service. So we knew that we wanted to take this great multiplayer gameplay and bring it to Xbox Live. We talked a lot about taking that same split screen couch in your living room and bringing it online, taking that party and bringing it to Xbox Live. So that was really a major push for us, probably the biggest technical and design hurdle that we faced for Halo 2. I think it's just fun. There's something about Halo, the basic design of it, which is extremely satisfying. The gameplay is very tight, the sandbox feels good, there's nice balance. But there's certain things about the Halo 2 multiplayer experience on Xbox that continue to work really, really well. The party system, the maps, everything was at the time, really, really cutting edge in terms of the technology and the design. And I think for Xbox, it still remains absolutely the case. Halo 2 is still a really, really great experience on Xbox Live. My proudest moment of working in Halo, even though the past is very misty and sometimes you see it through rose-colored glasses, was the experience of shipping Halo 1. I mean, we didn't know what was going to happen. We were just a company from Chicago that got bought, that got slammed onto this console, that rebuilt our game in a year to work on this thing and a shooter on consoles. And we certainly had a really fun time playing multiplayer with each other in our test lab, but we had never really released it into the wild before. And sort of sending off that first disc to certification and then crossing your fingers as it went out to retail. I mean, that was pins and needles time, but also really, really wonderful for a group of young men and women that hadn't really been tested yet. It was great, and to have the luck of it hitting big, I mean, that was even better. It would be hard to recreate that pretty magical time at Bungie.